The aim of this short presentation is to give teachers a clear understanding of what are the basic requirements for senior phase social sciences. The first thing that's important to remember is that social sciences takes place over 3 hours per week. And of course, this time is split equally between geography and history. Now, in Geography Grade 7, the learners are learning many different types of skills, and the focus areas are different. So we have map skills, they learn about earthquakes, volcanoes, floods, population growth and change, with the focus being the world, and then natural resources and conservation in South Africa. In Grade 8, they build on these concepts, so we look at maps and globes again. In climatic regions, we look at South Africa and the world. Then we look at settlement geography and then trade and transport. In Grade 9, once again map skills, but this time the focus on topographical and orthophoto maps, and then development issues, again focusing on South Africa and the world. We look at surface forces that shape the earth, and then we look at resources and the use of them and sustainability in the world. In history, every year again, the topics build on each other. So you can see in history, they learn of the Kingdom of Mali and the city of Timbuktu. And then they look at the transatlantic slave trade, colonization of the Cape in the 17th and 18th centuries, and then cooperation and conflict on the frontiers of the Cape Colony in the early 19th century. In Grade 8, they learn about the Industrial Revolution in Britain and Southern Africa, and this is particularly from 1860. They look at the Mineral Revolution in South Africa, and then they look at the scramble for Africa in the late 19th century. And then, of course, they start focusing on World War I. In Grade 9, they look at World War II, building on, obviously, Grade 8's work, the nuclear age and the Cold War. They look at turning points in South African history between 1948 and the 1950s, and then turning points in South African history 1960, 1976, and 1994. Now, all of these concepts and topics need to be covered within 30 hours over a 10-week term, and of course split evenly between 15 hours geography and 15 hours history. Now, as with all the subjects in CAPS, the curriculum is very specific as to what formal assessments the learners have to do each term. If we look at Term 1, and this is particularly in Grade 7 now, you have to do a task. They have to do a history task, which includes topics from Term 1, and a geography project, which also includes topics from Term 1. Those two count equally to the 100% CAS mark in Term 1. In Term 2, Grade 7, history has either a task or a test, and the same with geography, either task or test. And both of these come from the Term 2 topics. Once again, balanced evenly between history and geography. In Term 3, a task for each subject for history and geography, and once again balanced equally between the two subjects to give you 100%. And then in Term 4, of course, there's an examination for both subjects. And these exams both include all 4 terms topics that they've studied throughout the year. If we look at the final assessment and tasks and how they weighted, you'll notice that Term 1, Term 2, and Term 3, as with all senior phase subjects, counts 40% of the total year mark, 50% coming from history and 50% from geography. And of course, in Term 4, they do the examination, which counts 60%. Again, 50% from history and 50% from geography, which gives your final 100% mark. Now, in Grade 8, very similar approach to assessment. You'll notice again, Term 1, you've got a task and a project, task in history and a project in geography. In Term 2, a task or a test in both geography and history. Term 3, a task in history and a project in geography. And you'll notice they have the projects in different terms, so you don't sit with a project in geography and history for one term. And then in Term 4, once again, you've got your examination and spread between the two subjects. Exactly the same way of calculating the final marks for Grade 8 as in Grade 7. Grade 9, history task in Term 1, including Term 1's topics, and a project in geography. In Term 2, history either task or test, and geography either task or test, both equaling up to the 100%, 50% from each subject. In Grade 9 in Term 3, your history project is in the third term, and the geography task in the third term. And this weights up again, 50%, 50% to the 100% mark. In Term 4, for Grade 9, you're looking at the examination again for each for each of the subjects. 50% from the geography and 50% from the history exam. Now, if we look at what are the specific things that social sciences teachers should be aware of, well, the first thing they need to be aware of is that social sciences should develop the learner's ability to speculate, debate, make connections, select and prioritize information, and get the learners to apply their own reasoning and insights. The other thing to be aware of is there's only 30 hours of contact time per term, and this needs to be divided equally between geography and history. Language and the use of language is so important in both history and geography, and we need to make sure that we emphasize this in our teaching, in the assessments, and everything that we do in these subjects. And then, of course, writing skills should be included and developed in social sciences. The learners do a lot of essays, and you want to make sure that when they're discussing and when they're applying their answers in the exam, that they have the necessary writing skills to be able to do that.